Welcome back to HR Stew. My name is Regina Dyerly.
And I'm Holly Nehls.
And this is HR Stew. Are these HR myths true?
This week, we are talking about HR myths and misconceptions. Many people have preconceived notions about what HR does and their role within an organization. However, these preconceptions often don't match up with the reality of HR's functions and responsibilities. In this episode, we will explore some of the most common HR myths and shed light on what HR professionals actually do. So whether you're an employee, manager, or simply interested in HR, join us as we debunk these HR myths and uncover the truth about this important function in today's workplaces. Let's start by asking you both, what myth have you come across the most working in HR?
I think for us and what we do and going on site with the client, a myth that I have come across is that every time I go on site, it's for termination, write-ups, performance improvement plans, or just something really negative. And, HR walks in the room and it's doom and gloom. I also go on site or interact with our clients to discuss succession planning, retention. Do you have the budget to add extra headcount, their culture, and, making changes to the company culture or maintaining their current company culture that they work so hard on?
So many things.
Yes, I can't think of all of them, but we do good.
We do. Yeah. I don't love that either. HR's here thing. Yeah. No, I don't love that. I don't know if this is a myth, but one thing that has bothered me, I would say, is that HR is the party planners. Okay, at my last company that I worked at, we had events all the time, once a month. We celebrated something. And when I tell you, I have more Halloween costumes, I have shirts with tacos on it, spaghetti on it, you name it. I have clown hats, things that I will never use again in my life, hopefully. But it felt like the burden, the expectation was that we had to be party planners and be super involved. And you do want to be involved because you want to interact. You want to take those opportunities, obviously, to interact with employees. But I just think the burden shouldn't just fall on HR.
Do you think it fell on HR because there was nowhere else to put it, or because, they're, people friendly and, want to build a great culture and that's why it fell on HR?
Well, I think there's numerous reasons why potentially it would fall on HR. I think one of those reasons may be that HR is predominantly female.
Fair.
That is typically a role that people correlate with females. Right. So, and also, HR is, even though everybody is responsible for the culture in a company, it's like one of those bullets that's under HR, right. Even though HR could only do so much. So I think for that reason also, it's assigned to HR.
Yeah. Another one that I've just recently encountered is that HR reads your emails. Who has time to sit there and go through emails?
It's funny they think that IT would actually give us access to
that too.
Now listen, when you're doing an investigation, there is times that we've had to request specific emails. So that does happen sometimes. But in general, we don't have access to that stuff. And sometimes when we have to read stuff, we want to scrub our brains.
Right.
Like we have to, in the course of doing investigations, I had this one, oh my goodness, that somebody was corresponding on Facebook Messenger with a coworker and they sent us it was extensive.
Oh my.
And it was highly inappropriate.
Oh my.
And when I say highly inappropriate, like I'm embarrassed thinking of what was said in these messages. I wish I didn't have to read them. Like, I really, really wish I didn't have to read them. So, no, we don't have time to read emails, and we don't have access to read emails. And if we do, we have to request specific emails, typically from IT.
Those are actually some really good points, which leads me into today's activity. I would love to be able to read off some common HR myths, and you guys will be able to discuss if they are true or false. Myth number 1, HR only cares about protecting the company and always sides with management.
That is false.
I concur, Holly.
I think that you have to be able to see the big picture and see, what's going to protect the company, what's going to protect the company culture. And that's not just about the company. That's protecting however many employees you have and protecting, your company culture, like I said, and protecting your ability to produce a product and make it successful and grow or whatever your strategy is moving forward.
Yeah, I really agree with that. We hear that a lot. So, look, posts on LinkedIn, someone's posting a scenario and then right away you see in the comments, oh, HR, they don't care. HR only works for management and they don't care about the employees. And we're human beings. We have feelings. We have opinions. It doesn't really matter whose side we are because we're supposed to be an advocate of both equally. And representing both equally means we're doing our jobs correctly. Like you're saying, looking out for the interest of the employee is looking out for the interest of the employer.
Myth. HR is just a cost center that doesn't contribute to the bottom line.
There's a study recently, and I'm going to totally butcher this, but it talked about how our employees are our biggest asset. And if our employees are happy, and we have a good company culture and we have a good work-life balance, we will produce X% more fidgets or widgets or, whatever you're producing.
Fidgets and widgets.
You'll produce over and above. HR, our goal is to have a good company culture, to hire the right people in the right places and have succession plans, all of those things set in place. That goes with the success of your company, having the right people in the right place, a good company culture, a good work-life balance.
So look, there are absolutely departments that are cost centers, and there's a number of them, and HR is one of them, right? So you're not generating revenue, you're cost. But if a corporate philosophy is that HR is a cost center, then that's not the right company. Like, you don't really want to be working there, right? Because people are most companies' biggest asset, like you just said. And if anybody does any numbers on the impact that HR has on retention and attrition and the cost of what losing a person does, then I think HR easily justifies itself if they hadn't during the pandemic already.
Very fair. Should one of our questions be, if you go as an HR professional, if you go on an interview for a corporate job, should you say, do you consider HR as a cost center, or, expand on that a little bit? And then if they say
they're not going to hire you, Holly.
say something that's off-putting, you're like, no, thank you, I'm going to pass.
Myth. HR is a function that can be done by an administrative assistant or a receptionist.
Well, it depends on the administrative assistant or the receptionist, I suppose. Anybody could, get certified and learn how to deal with a lot of different scenarios. But in general, that's one of the things that is really difficult about being in HR is someone has hired somebody, they think they know how to do HR. HR is complex. It is nuanced. If you do it incorrectly, it could cost your company a lot of money. And so that, I'm trying not to use the word insulting, but it is a little bit, it is a little insulting.
Well, I think it takes a special kind of person to be in HR too. We've talked about this. There are people in HR that do not belong in that role because they don't have the finesse or the ability to actively listen. Many, many different things that they don't have, many qualities that they don't have and shouldn't be in this role, let alone an administrator.
Sometimes they have too much finesse.
Agreed.
Myth. HR is for big companies, not small businesses.
That goes against everything that Vita HR stands for. I wouldn't say everything, but part of our mission statement is to help, small businesses have an active HR so they can grow their business and be successful.
Yeah, I think small businesses, the only disadvantage they have is they can't afford an HR headcount. They still have the need. If you're over even a small amount of employees in the state of Colorado and a lot of states, there are requirements that you have to fulfill that when we're meeting with a lot of these small businesses, they're not even aware of. Right? So they're out of compliance. We come in and we help them. So no, all businesses need human resources. It's about whether or not, it's how they get their human resources. Are they contracting with a company because they can't afford the headcount? Are they bringing on their own headcount? Everybody needs HR in 2023.
Agreed.
That's for sure.
Yeah, especially with everything and all the new legislative changes since 2020 and the pandemic and everything.
Federal and statewide.
Yes.
It is. And if you have remote workers working in different states, your handbook probably isn't compliant. There's so many different areas that you could get in trouble. And look, this is a litigious society. Like, you don't want to not be in compliance with your HR. You just don't. And this isn't a sales pitch for VDHR
I know.
at all. That's just in general. It's just one of those things that people, because they're busy running their businesses, they think, well, I got this all under control, and they don't know until there's a problem.
Yeah. And there are people that go from company to company to find these little cracks in their HR so they can sue and they can get some sort of settlement from the lawsuits, $10,000, $15,000.
Do you remember there was that TikTok that we all watched about the gentleman that went into companies or like manufacturing companies, and he would just sit in the lunchroom listening to people, and we'd always get payouts because they would always violate things, whether it was OSHA, whether it was like harassment, whether it was whatever, but he worked in a number of different, he was proud of it. He's like, I go in there, they don't do their due diligence finding out anything about me, and I get hired, and I'm not looking for anything. It always lands in my lap. But he knows exactly what to do to make sure he gets paid.
Yeah. So small businesses absolutely need human resources.
Correct.
Myth: HR is paperwork and requires no skill.
Okay, first of all, paperwork requires skill.
A lot of skill.
That's number one.
Documentation is key.
But also, I mean, as HR has gotten more automated, there is less paperwork, right? Like we have made, at least here, we've made our lives a lot easier by automating a lot of functions where we are really spending a lot of our time doing more interacting, advising, focusing on bigger issues. And we do still do all the tactical stuff, and making sure I's are dotted and T's are crossed are critical to HR, but it is more than just paperwork.
Documentation is important.
Myth: HR is a female-dominated field and doesn't offer many opportunities for men.
Well, I kind of answered that earlier, right, when I said 74% of HR managers are female. As you go up the executive ranks, you do see more male counterparts. I just think it's a field that a lot of times more women are drawn to, whether it's payroll, benefits, HR generalists initially, whatever. It's a field that women sometimes feel like they want to work with people, and because there's a lot of the women, maybe they know somebody. So it is a little bit more of a female-dominated field. However, there is lots of opportunity for men.
I know in college, I would say it was about 50% males in most of my HR classes.
Were they finance required HR courses?
No, they were actually going to school for a degree with an emphasis on HR. I think most of them that I still associate with.
Or
on LinkedIn. They're in safety.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Or they just didn't go into that field at all, and it's like they have a degree with an emphasis on HR, and now they're in IT or something.
It is not easy to get a job in HR right out of college.
No, not at all.
It's just not. Like, it's one of those circles, right? I need a job to get experience. I can't get a job without experience type of scenario. So it's tough.
During this part of the podcast, we go to the online forum called Ask HR, where individuals can ask HR professionals questions and get answers. This user, late_exchange 8698, titled Weird Employee Situation. So, if an employee's spouse keeps calling asking about the other spouse's work schedule, and if they are present at work and at the time they are in or out, what is HR allowed to share with the spouse?
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing. I don't care if you're the emergency contact. Don't care. Especially in this day and age where everybody has a cell phone, and most people are allowed to have cell phones at work. Not everybody. If you can't get in touch with your spouse, that's a communication issue between you and your spouse. Like, we are not getting in the middle of it.
And you never know what's going on with somebody behind closed doors. Who knows what they're going through? Maybe they're going through a divorce or a separation, and they are just wanting to know that they're at work or whatever the case may be. I don't want to be in the middle of any of that.
The other option is, would you like us to transfer you to them? Definitely not. You can't get in the middle of that. You can't give information that you're not permitted to give. I did have, back in the day, I always say that, oh gosh, back in the day, we did have this scenario where we're in Colorado. It snows here sometimes, and it was snowing, but the city wasn't closed down, buses were running, everything okay. And we did have a very irate parent call asking why we were not closed. You know, how unsafe it was for their late 20s son to be at work, and how we were terrible employers and blah, blah, blah. I just think that's so funny. It's like it would not occur to me, even as an HR person, to ever call my children's workplace or get involved in that way. But some people just have no boundaries at all. And they put us in a real pickle sometimes with some of this, the pointed questions that we're asked that are not appropriate, that we can't even give out information.
I'm going to tell you guys my funny story. When I first moved out here from Florida, I had a Mustang convertible, two-door Mustang
fun.
Convertible. And the first time it snowed, I just started dating my husband. He came to my work and he said, they've closed down my work. If you want to ride home, get in, we're going. And I'm like, I think I'm leaving. I don't know how to drive in this powdery substance.
With the rear wheel drive vehicle.
Yes.
With no clearance.
Yes. Zero clearance. And it was only 2 times that he did that. But he came and picked me up and I left early. But it wasn't him, going to my boss and saying, hey, she has to leave. Plus, I was in my early 20s and probably wanted to go home at that time, let's be honest. This is going to bring our episode to a close. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of HR Stew. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. If you have HR myths we should talk about next, message us on Instagram at hr.stew. I'm Holly.
And I'm Regina.
And we will see you next time on HR Stew.